Every single plant in this entire series comes down to one small moment: the cut. Where you cut, how you cut, and what you do in the minutes right after that cut is the single biggest factor in whether a plant roots successfully in water or quietly rots away in a jar. Today we are going back to basics and breaking down exactly how to take the perfect water propagation cutting, step by step, using the real plant science behind every single decision along the way. If you have followed this series from the beginning, you already know the results this method produces. Today is about making sure you fully understand the why behind it, so that every cutting you take from here on any plant, gives you the best possible chance of success. Let us get into it. Step 1. Choose the right stem. Before you even pick up a pair of scissors, take a moment to actually look at the plant you are working with. Not every stem on a plant is equally suited to becoming a new cutting. The best candidates are what horticulturists call semi-hardwood growth, meaning a stem that is no longer brand new and soft, but also has not yet become fully woody and rigid. You can usually identify this by gently bending a small section of stem between your fingers. Brand new growth will feel almost rubbery and bend easily without resistance. Old woody growth will feel stiff and may snap cleanly rather than bending at all. What you want sits right in the middle, offering a small amount of give before stopping, which indicates the stem has matured enough to support root development, but is not so old that its cellular structure has become too rigid to easily generate new roots. Avoid taking cuttings from a stem that is currently flowering or producing new buds, since that stem has already committed a significant amount of its available energy toward reproduction rather than growth, leaving less available for the root development process ahead. A healthy, actively growing stem with no flowers or buds present will almost always root faster and more reliably. Step 2. Identify the node. This is genuinely the single most important concept in all of water propagation, and it is worth fully understanding rather than just memorizing. A node is the specific point along a stem where a leaf, branch, or aerial root either currently grows or has grown in the past, visible as a slightly thickened bump, ring, or junction in the stem's surface. Roots on nearly every common houseplant emerge specifically from this location because nodes contain a concentrated cluster of what are called meristematic cells, a type of undifferentiated plant cell capable of developing into various different tissue types, including root tissue, when triggered by the right conditions. The area between two nodes, called an internode, does not contain this same concentration of meristematic cells, which is exactly why a cutting with no node submerged in water will often sit completely unchanged for weeks or months, no matter how perfect the light and water conditions are. Before making any cut, run your fingers along the stem and visually identify at least 2 to 3 nodes, so you know exactly where your eventual cutting will need roots to emerge from. Step 3. Cut at the right length and the right angle. Once you have identified a healthy section of stem with visible nodes, most common houseplant cuttings should be between 4 and 6 inches long, though this varies somewhat by species, with thicker-stemmed plants sometimes taking slightly longer cuttings and delicate, soft-stemmed plants doing better, slightly shorter. The cutting should include at least 1, ideally 2 or 3 nodes, giving the plant multiple potential points for root development, rather than relying on just one. Make your cut at a slight angle, roughly 45 degrees, positioned just below a node rather than directly through it. This angled cut serves two practical purposes. First, it increases the total surface area of the cut end, which gives the plant more exposed tissue through which it can potentially develop roots. Second, on a growing plant, an angled cut sheds water more easily than a flat cut would, reducing the chance of standing moisture sitting directly on an exposed wound and inviting fungal issues, a benefit that matters even after the cutting has been removed from the parent plant and is sitting in your propagation jar. Always use clean, sharp scissors or pruning shears for this step. A dull blade crushes plant tissue rather than cleanly slicing through it, and that crushed, damaged tissue is both slower to heal and more vulnerable to rot than a clean cut. Wiping your blade with rubbing alcohol between cuttings, especially if you're taking cuttings from multiple different plants in one session, also helps prevent the accidental spread of any bacterial or fungal issues from one plant to another. Step 4. Remove the lower leaves. Any leaves that would end up sitting below the waterline once your cutting is placed in its jar need to be removed before that happens. This might feel counterproductive, since leaves are how a plant photosynthesizes and generates energy, but submerged leaves create a specific problem. Leaf tissue underwater begins breaking down far faster than stem tissue does, releasing organic material into the water that quickly becomes food for bacteria, directly contributing to the cloudy, smelly water we covered back in our troubleshooting video. As a general rule, leave 2 to 4 healthy leaves at the top of the cutting, well above where the waterline will sit, since the cutting still needs some leaf surface to continue photosynthesizing and generating the energy required to fuel root development. Removing every single leaf entirely in an attempt to prevent any possible decay actually works against you by leaving the cutting with no ongoing energy source at all. Step 5. Know when to let it callus. For most common foliage houseplants, placing a fresh cutting directly into water immediately after cutting works perfectly well. However, for certain plants, particularly succulents, and plants prone to bacterial soft rot like geranium, allowing the cut end to sit exposed to open air for a period of time before placing it in water significantly improves your success rate. This process, called callusing, allows the plant to naturally seal the wound with a protective layer before it comes into contact with moisture, reducing the surface area through which bacteria and fungi can enter. For most succulents, 24 to 48 hours of callusing time is appropriate. For geranium specifically, even a shorter window of 1 to 2 hours makes a meaningful difference. For the majority of common foliage plants covered throughout this series, callusing is not necessary at all, and placing the fresh cutting directly into water produces the fastest results. When in doubt, a general rule of thumb is that thicker, more water-retentive stems benefit from callusing, while thinner, faster-growing stems generally do not need it. Step 6. Choose the right container. A clear glass container is genuinely the best choice for water propagation, and not simply for the ability to watch your roots develop, though that is a nice benefit. Clear glass also allows more light to reach the water itself, and while roots do not photosynthesize the way leaves do, that light does help you visually monitor water clarity and catch early signs of bacterial cloudiness or algae growth before they become a bigger problem. The container should be sized appropriately for the cutting, generally tall and narrow enough that the cutting can stand upright without tipping, but not so large that the water volume is excessive relative to the plant material inside it. Since a larger volume of standing water takes longer to show visible signs of needing to be changed, potentially allowing problems to develop unnoticed for longer. A simple mason jar, drinking glass, or repurposed jar works perfectly for the vast majority of plants throughout this entire series. We are now over halfway through the process, and before we continue into the final steps, this is exactly the kind of foundational video I wanted to make at some point in this series. Since understanding the actual reasoning behind each step makes every single plant we have covered, and every plant we will cover going forward, that much easier to succeed with. If any of this is clicking into place for you right now, drop a comment and let me know. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is a great time, since we cover practical, real plant science content just like this every single week. Let us finish this out. Step 7. Get the water right. Ordinary tap water works perfectly well for the overwhelming majority of houseplants covered throughout this series. If your household water is heavily chlorinated, or if you notice consistent leaf browning that does not seem related to light or temperature, allowing tap water to sit out uncovered for 24 hours before using it lets much of the chlorine dissipate naturally, since chlorine is a gas that escapes into the air over time when water is left exposed. Water temperature matters more than most people expect. Extremely cold water straight from the tap can shock a fresh cutting, particularly for tropical plants like hibiscus, pothos, or philodendron, which naturally evolved in consistently warm environments. Room temperature water, or water that has simply been sitting out for a while, is generally the safer choice across nearly everything we have covered in this series. Step 8. Get the light right. Nearly every plant throughout this entire series does best in what horticulturists call bright, indirect light, meaning a spot that receives strong ambient daylight without being in the direct, concentrated path of the sun's rays for extended periods. A location near an east or north-facing window often provides this balance naturally, while a south or west-facing window may require a sheer curtain or a slight setback from the glass to prevent scorching, particularly during the most intense afternoon hours. Some plants specifically covered throughout this series, like petunia, jade plant, and geranium, genuinely benefit from a few hours of more direct sun each day, while others, like fuchsia, peace lily, and prayer plant, prefer more consistently filtered conditions. When starting a cutting of any plant for the first time, moderate, bright, indirect light is always the safest default starting point, since it is rare for a plant to suffer in that condition, while both very low light and harsh, direct sun carry real risk depending on the specific species. Step 9. Change the water on a real schedule. This is one of the most consistently underestimated factors in water propagation success. As a general baseline, changing the water every 5 to 7 days works well for most plants throughout this series, though faster growing, larger leafed plants and warmer climates or seasons may require changes every 3 to 4 days instead, since bacteria multiply more quickly in warmer conditions. Beyond simply pouring out old water and adding new, take a moment during each change to rinse the container itself, since a thin, often invisible biofilm can build up along the glass over time that plain water changes alone will not fully remove. This single habit, established early and maintained consistently, prevents the vast majority of the cloudy water and root rot issues we covered in detail in our troubleshooting video. Step 10. Learn to read the signs. Finally, understanding what healthy progress actually looks like helps you avoid two common mistakes: giving up too early on a plant that simply needs more time, and continuing to wait on a cutting that has genuinely failed and should be discarded. A healthy cutting, even before roots appear, should maintain firm, green, turgid leaves, and a stem that feels solid rather than soft when gently squeezed near the base. Some plants, like pothos or coleus, show visible roots within 1 to 2 weeks, while others, like snake plant or Hoya, can genuinely take 6 to 10 weeks or longer, a timeline difference that comes down to each species' natural rate of cellular division, rather than anything you are doing right or wrong. A cutting that has failed will typically show a stem that has gone soft, dark, or slimy right at the base, often accompanied by leaves that have turned yellow, black, or mushy, rather than simply wilting slightly. If you see those specific signs, it is time to discard that cutting and start fresh with a new one, rather than continuing to wait on tissue that has already begun breaking down. And that is the complete process, from choosing the right stem all the way through knowing exactly what to look for as your cutting develops. Every single plant we have covered across this entire series, from the very first episode through part 5, all comes down to these same 10 fundamental steps. Once you genuinely understand the reasoning behind each one, you are no longer just following a list of plants someone else already tested for you. You are equipped to walk up to nearly any plant, anywhere, and know exactly how to give it the best possible chance of thriving in nothing but a glass of water. If this video helped clarify the why behind everything we have covered so far, hit that like button before you go. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who would find it just as useful as you did. Drop a comment and let me know if there is a specific plant you are still unsure how to approach. I read every single one, and I am happy to help. And if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because there is a lot more practical, real plant content coming your way. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.